Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I have a review of the Naturalist DLC where I give my final verdict on this DLC. This is different from my guide. About 2 weeks ago I made an ultimate guide on this one. In this one we're going to cover on the good things in this DLC, the bad things, what I overall think of the DLC. So let's get started with it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this review. So starting off with this role, we are introduced to two brand new characters, and this DLC is smaller than the Moonshine update, at least in my opinion, because with the Moonshiners update, that one we got a brand new property, which was the Moonshine Shack, and we also had a decently long story alongside it. Here we don't really have a story, we just have one initial cutscene, and we have two brand new characters in this DLC. We have Harriet, who is this big environmentalist and wants to protect all wildlife and document it. And then we have Gus, who is this big trophy hunter. And both characters in this DLC are kind of the opposites of each other. And it's the first DLC where we have two sides to it, because in every DLC we would have, just one specific side. We had the bounty hunter, there we could capture or kill, but you were really meant to capture them. With the trader, we just had selling wagons. With the collector, looking for collections from Mazar, and with the moonshiner, selling moonshine. But here, on the other hand, we have two different characters who we interact with very differently. Harriet, she wants us to document animals, she wants us to study them, and bring her samples, to which we can sell to her and sell as bigger collections. I'll explain it a little bit later. And Gus, he wants us to bring him carcasses and pelts to sell to him, in which he can also craft trinkets for us, and these trinkets have specific abilities. These abilities include, 10% reduction in stamina on both your horse and on foot, 10% increased bonding rate, so these trinkets can come in handy with him. Gus also has the option of crafting certain outfits if you bring him legendary carcasses, and other animal parts along the way. But both of these characters, Harriet and Gus, they're extreme opposites of each other, because Harriet is this big, crazy environmentalist, and she will actually knock you out if you kill too many animals. That's how crazy she is with it. And she also claims that she can speak squirrel, which is kind of weird. And this is my whole premise with this DLC, is that this DLC is not a bad DLC. I wouldn't say it's an amazing DLC, but it's just a strange DLC. While Gus, he's a big trophy hunter, and, he takes hunting to the next extreme. So both Harriet and Gus are the extremes of each other. I do like that aspect, that we have two characters who have very opposite views in this update, and we can interact with them very differently. Now, right after this initial cutscene, we are going to be purchasing the Naturalist Rule from Harriet, and this costs 25 gold, similar to the Moonshiners update. And when we purchase this from Harriet, we get two things. We get the sampling kit, which we use to collect samples for the animals, and then we have the animal field guide, which we use as reference for getting information on all of the animals. And the animal field guide, this includes information on all of the ground, pretty much all of the ground animals in the game. It does not include fish and does not include birds. And in order to complete an animal in the animal field guide, you have to take a picture of the animal, you have to track the animal, you have to study the animal, you have to kill the animal, you have to skin the animal, you have to sedate the animal, and you have to get a sample. So some of these animals, you will have to kill them twice to complete the animal in that guide. And I think the worst thing about the animal field guide is the fact that there is no real reward for completing an animal. So if you complete an entire animal in here, and I've completed a huge bulk of them, if you complete an entire animal, you get all the information on it, you kill it, you skin it, you get the sample, you do everything, the photo, you don't get anything for it. And I think that's what a lot of people got frustrated for. I like completing this guide. I like getting information on the animals, but if it doesn't benefit me in some way, you ask, what's the point of doing all this work? Taking pictures of the animals and studying them. What is the point of doing that if you don't get any kind of reward for it? And what kind of reward could they give us? Maybe like a huge XP boost? You do get some XP for sedating the animal, but other than that, you don't get much. Maybe they could do it where if you complete an animal, you could put on a certain setting where you could be looking for that animal, and the game could give you like a general idea of where some of the rarer animals like moose are, what time of day they might spawn. Maybe that'll update with the field guide, but completing an animal in the field guide does not do anything extra. the most important part is sedating the animal. Sedating the animal and getting the sample is very important because then we sell that later to Harriet. And this moves on to our next part. When we get a sample from the animal, we have these different collections in the field guide. And the collections in the field guide, they're a little bit different than getting all the information on the animal, because once you get that initial sample, you'll know what that animal is called, and it'll help you with completing that guide. We have different, collections. We have, or I should call them categories as they're called in the field guide. I'm just used to saying collections because of the collector role. But as for the categories, we have desert animals, which are located in the desert. We have farmland animals, which are, located on farms and pens. We have mountains and grasslands. We have forests. We have wetlands. And when you complete all of these animals, you get a sample from each of these animals. Now, again, you don't have to complete the whole collection with all the information. The only thing you really need is the sample. So when you get the sample from this entire collection category, you can then take it to Harriet, and then you sell it to her. Do not sell doubles to her, because then it won't get stamped 2 times. Now, when you sell a sample to her, that animal gets stamped. You see this little coin pop up on that animal in the animal field guide. And when you get samples for all of the animals in that category, you get the entire thing stamped, you can then sell that category. And this, you can get a few $100s, and you do get a decent amount of Naturalist Rule XP. But for the time and effort that you put into this, the payouts aren't too good. Like, for instance, $140 for the mountain and grasslands one, I could probably do that 2-3 times in an hour if I'm really looking around for these animals, because I have a good idea of where those animals are. That's my personal favorite category to do, but a lot of other people have their favorite categories to do. The farmland one, that one, you get $60 for it. That's not worth it. Even though a lot of these animals are easy to get the samples for because they're in pens and farms, the fact that you gotta travel all the way across the map to the different farms and you gotta sedate each animal, that's not worth it for that amount. So certain payouts can be pretty bad, and as Rockstar drip feeds legendary animals, because legendary animals are being drip fed into this, eventually we will be able to complete the category for the legendary animals, so then we'll be able to experiment a little bit more with the payouts, but it's unfortunate that we don't have all of the animals with the sets here. Additionally, when it comes to legendary animals, this is a great new addition to the game, and I think this is something that should have been added in the game since the start, but it's nice that they finally added them in. So we now have legendary animals, and these can appear in 2 ways. The first way can appear is when you take a legendary animal mission from Harriet, like we have right here, those you unlock at level 5, and these missions are the best ways to level up the Naturalist role. Or you could encounter a legendary animal in free roam. Now, encountering a legendary animal in free roam, you have a map which shows you the general idea of where these legendary animals are, but this map is not necessarily the best, because you will sometimes go to that area and you can spend a long time, like 30 minutes to like an hour, exploring literally the whole area, and you will not find one trace of a legendary animal. And this was supposedly due to a glitch that Rockstar attempted to fix but kind of ended in disaster, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But basically, to sum up these legendary animals, they are nice additions to the game. You can get a ton of trader materials if you try to bring them to your camp. You can also bring them to Gus, which he'll create outfits for you for, or you could bring them to Harriet, which this would probably be the best way that you can get them stamped, and you can start building the collection for the legendary animal, or the categories, I should say. I just keep saying collection because I'm so used with the collector role. But one frustrating thing in terms of legendary animals is that they're not all in the game. Now, Rockstar is drip feeding them in on Tuesdays, and I don't mind drip feed content because, it extends this update and makes it longer, but at the same time I wish the drip feed legendary animals were in one category, and the other categories that were already in the game, and we could complete them, because it's frustrating when you are trying to complete a legendary animal category and you pretty much have all of them in there, but then there's a few that are still drip fed. So they should have just had one category that you can complete from the start, and then they should have brought in the drip fed animals. But other than that, I don't really have any complaints about the legendary animals. I do like their addition. Additionally, in this update, we have 2 new weapons and 1 brand new gadget. Let's start off with the elephant gun. The elephant gun is a new gun that was added, and this gun is customizable to a certain extent. You can customize the barrel, you can customize the iron sights. This gun does not have any type of special ammo. It only uses Nitro Express, which is unique to that gun, and this gun is meant for big game hunting, but if you fire this at really big animals like at bison or bears, it destroys the pelt. It's really meant to be able to kill legendary animals. Legendary animals, you can take them down in a few shots, but as for like really big game, I don't understand why it wouldn't help with that. That was one disappointing thing with the elephant gun. And the elephant gun, it has a lot of recoil. If you fire it, just standing up, you will basically flinch for a little bit. If you fire it while crouched, you will fall to the ground, and this can be a little frustrating behind cover, but I do like that extra aspect to detail. It doesn't have that much range, but it one-shots pretty much most enemies, and on top of that, it can be pretty effective in some PvP modes. Like you see right here in Fool's Gold, I was able to take out the guys of armor in just 2 shots, so it does have its uses. Now, the other thing is we have a new improved bow, and this new improved bow, it's better than the regular bow that we've had in the game, and it was actually much better a few days ago, but it got patched. So Rockstar had made a patch on this bow because people were able to take out players at long distances, and using Deadeye with this thing of painted black, they were able to hit other players, kill them pretty quickly. This weapon has now been nerfed, but on the bright side though, it is good that we have gotten a new bow. And then lastly here we have the advanced camera. Now the advanced camera is something that players have asked for a long time, and the advanced camera, very easy to take self-portraits with it. You can use it while moving around, you can use it while crouched also, easier to document the animals, you can put on filters on this thing, so the advanced camera is definitely a welcome feature, and right now there's a competition in Red Dead Online for whoever can get the best picture. Rockstar will use their picture in the next update, so curious what the picture is going to be that's going to win, but it's going to be due to the advanced camera, so I do like that aspect. But there's something important that I haven't mentioned yet that a lot of people would argue is the best part of this DLC, and that is that the animal spawns are finally back to normal. Now, ever since the Frontiers Pursuit in September of 2019, almost a full year ago, the animal spawns have been really glitchy in this game, and you were having such a difficult time in a lot of lobbies just trying to find animals. You had to constantly try to look for solo lobbies just so animals would spawn. This DLC fixed that. Animals are everywhere now, and you can see right now with this trader mission, the hunting mission, where you actually have to find a certain pelt for the trader before he gives you the wagon, this mission was pretty much undoable, impossible to play before the update, but now I instantly got over here. He told me to find a turtle. I found the turtle in less than a minute, gave it to him, took the supplies, it's easy. However, though, on the other hand, there was a disastrous patch that Rockstar launched last Monday. And that patch that they launched last Monday completely broke the game, in which there was no NPCs in the world, no animals again, you couldn't start up any kind of missions, you couldn't spawn the camp, you were locked out of auto-aim, you couldn't call your own horse in, it was just ridiculous. And on top of that, the game would crash every 2 to 5 minutes. And they fixed that on Thursday, but there was a good 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that this was an issue in, and every single time I think of this update now, I'm going to think of that 3-day period in which we just could not play the game, and a lot of people lost their daily streaks. That is frustrating. However, though, with this update, we have gotten a new Outlaw Pass, which is always a new welcome, and the Outlaw Pass, you can easily grind for gold in the game, get it, and then get it with the Outlaw Pass, and then you get your gold back, and you get plenty of things along the way. Not really going to spend much time on it, but I do like the Outlaw Pass. And here at the end, we have the pros and the cons. Now, the first pro of this DLC is that we have a new role. We have 2 brand new characters, Gus and Harriet, and I like how they are the opposites of each other. But even though we have the opposites of each other, there are issues with this, and that is primarily with Harriet's character development on the environment. And look, I get it that she is portrayed as this big environmentalist, and that's part of her character, and it's understandable that she would get mad at us for killing animals, but on the other hand, the animal field guide that she gives us, it specifically tells us to kill and skin animals. So her book that she sells us tells us to kill and skin animals, And yet, if you do that, she gets angry at you, like in this case, and sprays you and knocks you out, and then you can't interact with her for 5 minutes. That is kind of stupid, at least in my opinion. I don't mind, her knocking you out and going after you like this, but at the same time she shouldn't be giving you a book which tells you to kill and skin animals if when you do what the book tells you, she does that. Doesn't make sense. Another pro is we have legendary animals. Now this is definitely a welcome change. This is something that is also in the world of free mode or in missions. A lot of people have requested this for some time. We have a new gun, we have the new bow, and a new advanced camera. All pluses, new stuff added. Animal spawns have been fixed. A lot of people are happy by this. Animal spawns are finally back to normal. Cons are, now like I said earlier with the animal field guide, you complete the animal field guide and you don't really get much for it. Now, the animal field guide will give you a general description of where the animal is, the region is, but I wish that the field guide did more than that. Like, it would tell us what times an animal is more common to spawn, and what we could do is we could select the animal that we completed, we could press maybe X on it or A on the Xbox, and this would like select that animal and would like maybe make a little icon in the map and say this animal is located around here. And then you could go and find that specific animal much easier. Not for legendary animals, because that'll be a little broken, but for like regular animals, if you're trying to find one and you're looking through the book should at least help you center the location of where the animal is, not just tell you a general area. And we have another con, which is the disastrous patch. Now, obviously, this was fixed after 3 days, but it's still going in my review because of the fact that this happened during the DLC, that they tried to fix some bugs in the DLC, which is understandable, but then that patch completely broke the game, and for 3 days the game was unplayable. Now, another con is Gus has no missions, and the reason that this bothers me is because Gus does not really do much in this DLC, except, if you bring him pelts, you can sell it to him, he can make you trinkets, and he make you different outfits, but he has no real missions. Harriet has legendary animal missions, and yes, you can kill legendary animal during those missions and bring it to Gus, but, Harriet gives us these poacher missions, which aren't, they're very, they're very repetitive, but Gus doesn't give us any kind of mission. I wish that he would give us some kind of mission, because when you see him in the initial cutscene, you think he's going to play a much bigger role, but he doesn't. And then the final con is we have no extra content. Now, this DLC included 2 brand new free mode events. It included Protect the Legendary Animal and also the animal sampling one. And they're kind of boring. Like, Protect the Legendary Animal, it's just so boring, where you're protecting an animal for like 5 to 10 minutes while it's walking around and you're just shooting all the poachers around. It's just really boring. I just can't see myself playing it anymore. And then the other one where you're just sampling animals around, this one you're more running around at the same time, but there isn't really much excitement to these free mode events, and there are some random events in free mode, but I've only really encountered 1 or 2. Not much with this DLC, so this DLC, if you compare it to the Moonshiners DLC, it is lacking in content, and I don't want to sound ungrateful here. That's not what I'm going for. I am happy that we finally got a DLC, but after waiting for about, 7 months, over 7 months for a DLC, you would think that the DLC would be a little bigger, because with the Moonshiners update, at least we got a whole story with that, and we got a property, but here, we just don't have as much content, so hopefully we do have another DLC in October. That is when the Outlaw Pass runs out, so hopefully we get a second, bigger DLC there. So that is pretty much it for this DLC, and what is the verdict that I'm going to give for this DLC? I would say about a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10. It's not an amazing DLC. It's not, terrible either, but at the same time, it's just weird. It doesn't have a lot of content in it, and it's not, really what a lot of people have been asking for. When I ask people, what do you want in a DLC in this game, they want an outlaw role. They want to be able to rob banks, rob trains, do stuff like that with their friends, rob carriages. You can rob carriages to an extent right now, like looting the back, but there isn't really more than that. There should be, a role that focuses more on the criminal element of the Wild West. That's what a lot of people want. So I don't want to sound ungrateful here, but at the same time, it was just a strange update. Not a terrible update, but I wouldn't say an amazing update either. So that's pretty much it for this review. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like. And if you're new to my channel, join my channel, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.